So Redux to the rescue. Redux is awesome, right? It allows us to solve all our problems, doesn't it? How does Redux work then? Well, remember that idea of having some central place where you manage the entire state. I said that we can't use a global variable for that, and we can't. But Redux gives us a certain flow of data, a certain way of managing data that we can then nicely integrate with another package into the React app so that React does react to changes of the data. Now, I will show you how that integration works, but first let me describe how Redux works. How does it manage data and how does it update it? In the end, it's all about a central store we have in each Redux application. And I want to highlight that Redux is a third-party library which works totally independent of React. It's most often seen in conjunction with React, but theoretically, it's independent. So it's all about a central store. This store stores the entire application state. It's that simple. You can think about it as a giant JavaScript object. Now, in a React application, and again, Redux is independent from React, but it's the most common use case and it's a React course here in the end, we got components. And a component probably wants to manipulate or get the current application state. Now, it doesn't do that by directly manipulating that central JavaScript object. That would not be picked up by React's reactivity system, and even worse, it would make our store pretty unpredictable. If we edit it from anywhere in our application, then we can never see where we made a certain change that broke our app, for example. So we need to have a clear, predictable process of updating the state on which we can rely on and which is the only process that can change our state. That is actually what Redux is all about, having a clearly defined process of how your state may change. The first building block, besides the central store, are actions, which are dispatched from your JavaScript code. In a React app, they are dispatched from within your components. An action is just an information package in the end, with a type, something like add ingredient or remove ingredient, so a description you could say. Possibly, it also holds a payload. For example, if the action is add ingredient, we need to also pass the information which ingredient. And that would also be a part of the action. So it's an information package we're sending out to the world, or to Redux to be precise. That action doesn't directly reach the store. That action doesn't hold any logic. It doesn't know how to update the store. It's just a messenger. The thing changing the store is a reducer. Now here I've written reducers because you actually can combine multiple reducers into one. But in the end, you'll end up with one root reducer, which is directly connected to your store in the end. So the action reaches the reducer, and since the action contains a type, the reducer can check the type of the action, for example, if it's add ingredient, and we then define the code for that type of action in the reducer. The reducer in the end is just a pure function which receives the action and the old state as input, and which then spits out an updated state. The important thing is that the reducer has to execute synchronous code only. No asynchronous code, no side effects, no HTTP requests, nothing of that. You'll learn later how you can still implement asynchronous code. But in reducers, it's just input in, output out. Nothing in between, no delay. So this is the reducer. And the reducer spits up the updated state, which then is stored in the store again and replaces the old state. And that has to be done in an immutable way. So we always return a new state, which can be based on the old one, but which is technically a new JavaScript object. Because objects are reference types in JavaScript, and we want to make sure that we don't accidentally change the old one. So that is how the reducer handles the action. Now the store is up to date. How do we get the updated state back into our component then? For that, we use a subscription model. The store triggers all subscriptions whenever the state changes, whenever the state is updated in the store. And of course, our component can subscribe to store updates, and it then receives that update automatically. This is how simple it is. It works through a subscription model, and we simply say, hey, I want to get notified whenever the state changes, just as we say, hey, I want to change the state. Here is an action describing my plans. This is the Redux flow. This is how Redux works. Very theoretical though. Let's see it in action over the next lectures.